The red dust of Kepler 442b swirled around Captain Jake Morrison as he crouched behind the twisted metal of what used to be a human transport ship. His breathing was heavy and each breath tasted like copper and death. The alien plasma fire lit up the dark sky above him in terrible blue flashes. Morrison looked at his rifle display. Only 12 energy cells left. Around him lay the bodies of his squad, good soldiers who had followed him across the galaxy to fight the Zephyrians. Now they were all gone and he was alone. The war had been going on for 3 years now. The Zephyrians had come from somewhere beyond the outer rim, with ships bigger than cities and weapons that could burn through any armor humans had ever made. They moved from system to system like a plague. First they took the outer colonies, then the mining worlds, then the agricultural planets. Each time they left nothing behind but ash and silence. Earth had sent everything they had to stop them. Battle fleets, marine divisions, the best soldiers humanity could produce. It had not been enough. Morrison pressed his back against the wreckage and checked his communication device. Static filled his ears, but then he heard a voice cutting through the noise. It was Admiral Lisa Chen back on Earth. Her voice sounded tired and full of pain. She had been coordinating the defense of 12 different star systems and watching them fall one by one. Morrison had known Chen since he was a young lieutenant. She had always been strong, but now even she sounded like she was at the end of hope. "Morrison, we have lost contact with the 5th Fleet," Chen said through the static. "The Zephyrians have broken through our lines everywhere. They are moving toward Earth now." Her voice cracked slightly. "Jake, I need you to listen to me very carefully. You have been fighting out there for months and you have seen what these aliens can do. You know what they are capable of. If they reach Earth, the same thing will happen to our home world that happened to every other planet they have touched." Morrison closed his eyes for a moment. He could picture Earth in his mind. The blue oceans and white clouds, the cities where millions of people lived their normal lives, children playing in parks, families eating dinner together, old people sitting on benches feeding birds. All of it would be gone if the Zephyrians got there. He opened his eyes and looked up at the alien sky. A Zephyrian patrol ship was moving overhead like a giant metal insect. Its searchlights swept back and forth across the battlefield looking for any humans who might still be alive. "There is something I need to tell you, Jake," Chen continued. "Something that has been classified at the highest levels for 50 years. We have a backup plan. Something we hoped we would never have to use." Morrison felt his heart beat faster. "What kind of backup plan?" he asked. Chen was quiet for a long moment. Then she spoke in a voice that was barely above a whisper. "The Genesis Protocol. We have soldiers, Jake. Enhanced soldiers who have been waiting in deep sleep for exactly this situation. They are stronger and faster than any human who has ever lived. They have been trained for this kind of war." Morrison felt confused and angry at the same time. "You mean we had super soldiers this whole time and you kept them sleeping while my men died out here? Why the hell did you not wake them up before now?" Chen sighed deeply. "Because once we wake them up, there is no going back, Jake. They are the last card we have to play. If they fail, then humanity is finished. We needed to be absolutely certain that conventional forces could not win before we used them. Now we are certain." The ground shook under Morrison as another explosion lit up the horizon. The Zephyrians were getting closer. He could hear their vehicles rumbling across the rocky terrain, their voices calling to each other in their harsh alien language. Morrison looked at his communication device. There was a small red button that he had never used before. Chen had told him about it years ago during a briefing that seemed like it happened in another lifetime. It was connected to a quantum transmitter that could send a signal across the galaxy instantly. The authorization code for Genesis Protocol. "I am going to authorize the protocol now," Morrison said. Chen was quiet. "Jake, you understand what this means. Once you send that signal, there is no stopping what comes next. Those soldiers will wake up and they will fight. But they are not like us anymore. The enhancements changed them, made them into something between human and machine. They still have human hearts and human souls, but their bodies are weapons." Morrison looked around at the bodies of his squad. "These were good people, Chen. They deserved better than this. Wake up the Genesis soldiers and let them finish what we started." Morrison pressed the red button. A bright light flashed on his device and then went dark. The signal was sent. Somewhere on Earth, machines were receiving the authorization code and beginning the wake-up sequence for thousands of enhanced soldiers. Morrison felt a strange sense of peace come over him. His part in this war was almost over, but the war itself would continue. The Zephyrians thought they had won, but they were wrong. They had no idea what was coming for them. A plasma bolt struck the wreckage near Morrison and sent sparks flying. The aliens had found him. He picked up his rifle and checked the energy cells one more time. 11 left. He smiled grimly and stood up from behind cover. The Zephyrian soldiers were advancing across the battlefield in formation. Their armor gleamed in the light from their weapons. Morrison raised his rifle and took aim. He might be the last human soldier fighting on this planet, but he was still fighting. And somewhere back on Earth, the Genesis soldiers were waking up. Deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, in a place that did not exist on any map, machines that had been sleeping for 50 years suddenly came to life. Red lights began flashing in long corridors carved from solid rock. Computer screens flickered on, showing data streams and vital signs. The air itself seemed to hum with electricity as massive generators started running for the first time in decades. In a control room filled with monitors, automated systems began the most important wake-up call in human history. Sergeant Alex Rodriguez opened his eyes in a world of white fog and cold air. The cryogenic pod around him was slowly warming up, and the ice that had covered his body for 50 years was melting away. His enhanced nervous system came online first, then his improved muscles, then his upgraded reflexes. Rodriguez had volunteered for the Genesis program when he was 25 years old. Now he was still 25, but half a century had passed. The world above had changed in ways he could not imagine. Rodriguez sat up slowly and looked around the vast chamber. Thousands of other pods were opening at the same time. Men and women who had been the best soldiers humanity had ever produced were waking up to find themselves in a future they had never seen. The first person Rodriguez saw was Dr. Elena Vasquez. She had been a combat medic before the enhancement procedures. Now her reflexes were faster than any normal human, and her mind could process tactical information like a computer. She looked at Rodriguez and nodded. They both knew why they had been awakened. Across the chamber, Rodriguez could see other familiar faces. Corporal Ben Carter, who had been a demolitions expert before his bones were reinforced with titanium alloy. Lieutenant Maya Patel, whose eyes had been replaced with advanced targeting systems that could track a target from 3 miles away. Staff Sergeant Rick Davis, whose nervous system had been rewired to give him perfect coordination. All of them had volunteered to become something more than human for the chance to protect humanity when normal soldiers were not enough. Rodriguez stepped out of his pod and felt the enhanced strength in his legs. His muscles were not much bigger than they had been before, but they were different, denser, more efficient. He could feel power flowing through them that no normal human had ever possessed. His reflexes had been improved to the point where he could see individual raindrops falling and track the path of bullets through the air. His mind was still his own, but it processed information faster than ever before. A holographic display appeared in the center of the chamber, showing Admiral Chen. She looked older than Rodriguez remembered and very tired. Her face was lined with stress, and her eyes had the look of someone who had seen too much death. "Genesis soldiers," she said, her voice echoing through the vast underground facility. "I wish I could welcome you back to a world at peace, but that is not why you were awakened. The Zephyrian Empire has invaded Earth. Our conventional forces have been destroyed or scattered. You are humanity's last hope." The hologram showed images of cities under alien occupation. New York with Zephyrian ships hovering over the skyline. London with alien soldiers patrolling the streets. Tokyo with massive energy weapons pointed at civilian areas. Rodriguez felt anger rising in his chest. These aliens had come to his home world and were threatening innocent people. Children and families who had no way to defend themselves. The enhancements had made his body into a weapon, but his heart was still completely human. Dr. Vasquez moved to stand beside Rodriguez. Her medical training told her to help people, but her combat enhancements made her into a perfect warrior. "Alex," she said quietly, "how long were we asleep?" Rodriguez looked at the date display on the wall. 50 years, Elena. Everything we knew is gone. Our families, our friends, the world we remember. But the mission is still the same. Protect humanity no matter what the cost. Vasquez nodded and checked the weapon that had been placed beside her pod. It was more advanced than anything she had used before, but her enhanced reflexes made it feel familiar in her hands. Lieutenant Patel activated her targeting system and looked around the chamber. Her enhanced vision showed her details that normal eyes could never see. The stress patterns in the concrete walls, the heat signatures of the other soldiers, the exact distance to every object in the room. She had given up normal human sight to become the perfect sniper. Now she would use that gift to protect the species that had created her. Maya moved to join Rodriguez and Vasquez. Her voice was quiet but determined. "What are our orders, Sergeant?" Admiral Chen continued her briefing. "The aliens control most major population centers, but resistance groups are still active across the globe. Your mission is to coordinate with these groups and begin systematic liberation operations. You have advantages the Zephyrians do not expect. Enhanced strength, improved reflexes, advanced weapons, and most importantly, the human spirit that refuses to surrender." Rodriguez listened carefully. The plan was dangerous, but it was also their only chance. If they failed, then humanity would be enslaved or destroyed. Corporal Carter joined the group carrying an advanced explosive device that looked like it could level a city block. His reinforced skeleton would let him carry equipment that would crush a normal soldier. Ben had always been good with explosives, but now he was perfect with them. His enhanced spatial reasoning let him calculate blast patterns and structural weaknesses instantly. He looked at the others and smiled grimly. "Looks like we finally get to field test all these upgrades." Rodriguez smiled back. It was good to see that 50 years of sleep had not changed Carter's sense of humor. Around them, thousands of other Genesis soldiers were checking their equipment and receiving their assignments. They would spread out across the globe in small teams. Each team would have different skills and different targets. Some would rescue prisoners, others would sabotage alien installations, still others would gather intelligence and coordinate with resistance fighters. They had trained for this mission their entire lives, and then they had slept through 50 years of history waiting for the moment when they would be needed most. Rodriguez looked at his team. Vasquez the medic who could heal or kill with equal skill. Patel the sniper who never missed her target. Carter the demolitions expert who could bring down buildings or disarm bombs in seconds. They were not human anymore, but they were not machines either. They were something new, something that the Zephyrians had never faced before, something that would show the aliens that humanity was far from defeated. The Genesis soldiers were awake and the real war was about to begin. The prisoner processing facility outside Denver sat like a metal cancer on the landscape. Zephyrian guard towers rose into the night sky with searchlights sweeping back and forth across the compound. Inside the facility, 3,000 human civilians were being held for what the aliens called behavioral reconditioning. Rodriguez crouched in the darkness 2 miles away, studying the target through his enhanced vision. The facility was heavily defended, but the Genesis team had advantages that the aliens could not imagine. Beside him, Dr. Vasquez checked her medical scanner. She could detect the life signs of every human in the facility even at this distance. The civilians were weak and scared, but they were alive. Many showed signs of malnutrition and stress, but nothing that could not be treated. Elena looked at Rodriguez with her enhanced eyes that could see in complete darkness. 3,000 people, Alex. We cannot save them all at once, but we can make a start. Rodriguez nodded. They would save as many as possible and send a message to the aliens that humanity was not as helpless as they believed. Lieutenant Patel lay on a ridge 800 meters from the facility with her sniper rifle, aimed at the main guard tower. Her targeting system had already calculated wind speed, air density, and gravitational drop. The alien guard in the tower would be dead before he even heard the shot. Maya spoke quietly into her communication device. "I have clear shots on 6 guards. The patrol patterns repeat every 12 minutes. Rodriguez and the others will have a 40-second window to reach the outer fence undetected." Corporal Carter was already at the fence line with enough explosives to level half the facility. But this mission required precision, not destruction. Too much explosive force would collapse the buildings and kill the prisoners they were trying to save. Ben had calculated exactly how much charge was needed to create openings in the walls, without bringing down the entire structure. His enhanced spatial reasoning made him see the building like a 3-dimensional puzzle that he could take apart piece by piece. Rodriguez checked his weapon and looked at his team. They had been training for this kind of mission their entire lives, and then they had spent 50 years in frozen sleep, waiting for the chance to use their skills. Now that chance had come and they were ready. The Zephyrians had made a mistake when they decided to invade Earth. They thought humans were just another primitive species that could be conquered through superior technology. They had no idea what they were really fighting. At exactly midnight, Rodriguez gave the signal. Patel fired 6 shots in rapid succession, and 6 alien guards died without making a sound. Carter detonated his charges and holes appeared in the facility walls with surgical precision. Rodriguez and Vasquez moved through the darkness like ghosts. their enhanced speed carrying them across open ground faster than any normal human could run. The Zephyrian motion sensors were calibrated for regular humans and could not track targets moving at Genesis speeds. Inside the facility, Rodriguez found himself face-to-face with a Zephyrian guard who was reaching for his weapon. The alien was tall and thin with gray skin and large black eyes. His reflexes were faster than any normal human, but they seemed to move in slow motion compared to Rodriguez's enhanced nervous system. Rodriguez struck the guard in the throat and caught his body before it could hit the ground and make noise. The alien was unconscious but alive. The Genesis soldiers were here to save people, not to commit massacre. Vasquez moved through the prison cells like a healing angel. Her medical scanner showed her which prisoners were in the worst condition and needed immediate attention. She administered stimulants to the weakest and nutrition supplements to children who were suffering from hunger. Her enhanced reflexes let her work faster than any normal doctor, while her combat training kept her alert for any threats. Elena had become the perfect combination of healer and warrior. In one of the cells, Rodriguez found Dr. Amanda Foster, a civilian researcher who had been captured when the aliens first invaded. She was weak, but her eyes were still bright with intelligence. Rodriguez helped her to her feet and was surprised when she grabbed his arm with surprising strength. "You are not regular soldiers," she whispered. "Your movements, your coordination, you are something else entirely." Rodriguez looked at her carefully. She was observant and smart. "Dr. Foster, we are here to get you out. Can you walk?" Amanda nodded. "I can walk and I can help. I have been studying these aliens for months. I know their weaknesses," Foster explained quickly as they moved through the facility. The Zephyrians are logical creatures who make decisions based on mathematical analysis. They cannot understand the human concept of fighting for ideals rather than just survival. Their entire military doctrine assumes that all species will surrender when the cost of fighting becomes too high. They have never faced opponents who would rather die than give up their freedom. This makes them predictable to anyone who understands human nature. Carter had cleared an escape route through the outer wall and was guiding prisoners to safety. His enhanced strength let him carry wounded civilians who could not walk on their own. Ben moved through the facility like a protective giant, his reinforced skeleton allowing him to shield people from falling debris and enemy fire. One of the children he was carrying looked up at him with wide eyes. "Are you a robot, mister?" Carter smiled down at the little girl. "No, sweetheart, I am just a soldier who got some upgrades. We are here to take you home." Patel continued to provide cover from her position on the ridge. Her enhanced vision showed her that Zephyrian reinforcements were moving toward the facility, but they would not arrive for another 10 minutes. That was enough time for the Genesis team to complete their mission and escape with the prisoners. Maya fired 3 more shots and eliminated the pilots of an alien patrol vehicle before they could call for help. Her targeting system was so advanced that she could hit a coin at this distance. As the Genesis team led the rescued prisoners away from the facility, Rodriguez felt a surge of satisfaction. This was why they had volunteered for the enhancement procedures. This was why they had given up their normal human lives to become living weapons, not for glory or power but to protect innocent people who could not protect themselves. The Zephyrians had made a fatal error when they assumed humans would act logically in the face of overwhelming odds. Humans did not fight because it made sense. They fought because it was right. And now the aliens were going to learn exactly what that meant. Across the world, the Genesis soldiers struck like lightning. In Tokyo, Lieutenant Patel moved through the ruins of the financial district with 3 other enhanced snipers. Their target was a Zephyrian communication array that had been built on top of what used to be the Tokyo Stock Exchange. The aliens were using the array to coordinate their forces across the entire Pacific region. Maya and her team positioned themselves on rooftops 3 miles away from the target. At this distance, normal snipers would have no chance of hitting anything, but the Genesis soldiers were not normal. Patel looked through her scope and saw alien technicians working on the communication equipment. Her enhanced vision could pick out individual components and weak points in their technology. She spoke quietly to her team through their encrypted communication system. "Target the power coupling on the northwest corner first, then the main transmitter array, then the backup generators. We have 1 shot at this before they realize what is happening." The other snipers confirmed their targets and prepared to fire. At exactly 3 in the morning Tokyo time, the snipers fired simultaneously. 4 shots covered 3 miles in less than 2 seconds and struck their targets with perfect precision. The Zephyrian communication array exploded in a shower of sparks and alien metal. Suddenly, every alien unit in the Pacific region was cut off from their command structure. They could not coordinate their movements or call for reinforcements. Maya smiled as she watched the aliens running around their burning installation like confused insects. The first phase of the global operation was complete. In London, Corporal Carter led a demolitions team through the ruins of Parliament, where the Zephyrians had built their European command center. The aliens had turned the historic building into a fortress with energy shields and automated defenses. But Carter had studied the building plans and knew exactly where to place his explosives for maximum effect. His enhanced spatial reasoning let him see the load-bearing structures and stress points that normal engineers would need computers to calculate. Carter's team moved through the underground tunnels beneath London like ghosts. Their enhanced strength let them carry enough explosives to level a city block, while their improved reflexes kept them silent and invisible to alien sensors. Ben placed charges at 17 different points throughout the foundation of the building. Each explosive was precisely calculated to create a cascade failure that would bring down the entire structure, while leaving the surrounding buildings intact. The Genesis soldiers were weapons, but they were also protectors. When Carter detonated the charges, the former Parliament building collapsed in on itself like a house of cards. The alien command center was completely destroyed, but the historic buildings nearby were untouched. Inside the ruins, hundreds of Zephyrian officers and technicians were trapped under tons of debris. They had thought they were safe in their fortress, but they had not counted on human determination and enhanced human capabilities working together. In Sydney, Dr. Vasquez was leading a medical team through the underground tunnels where human resistance fighters had been hiding for months. Many of the fighters were wounded and sick from living in harsh conditions without proper medical care. Elena moved from person to person with her enhanced reflexes and advanced medical knowledge. She could diagnose conditions instantly and treat injuries that would have taken normal doctors hours to understand. But more importantly, she was developing countermeasures to Zephyrian biological weapons. Vasquez had captured samples of alien bioweapons during previous missions, and her enhanced intellect was analyzing them at superhuman speed. She discovered that the Zephyrian toxins were designed to attack human nervous systems, but they had one critical weakness. The aliens had based their weapons on incomplete data about human biology. They did not understand how human immune systems could adapt and overcome threats. Elena was creating vaccines that would make humans immune to every bioweapon the aliens possessed. But the Genesis soldiers were not fighting alone. Across the globe, human resistance cells were emerging from their hiding places. In New York, former police officer Kate Murphy led 200 civilians in an attack on an alien supply depot. In Berlin, retired engineer Dan Williams had figured out how to hack Zephyrian computer systems and was feeding intelligence to Genesis teams worldwide. In Mumbai, a group of teachers and students had turned their school into a fortress and were protecting thousands of refugees. Rodriguez coordinated the global operations from a mobile command center that moved constantly to avoid alien detection. His enhanced mind could process information from dozens of teams simultaneously and make tactical decisions faster than any normal human commander. Alex watched the reports coming in from around the world and felt a surge of pride. The Genesis soldiers were performing beyond even their enhanced capabilities, but the real heroes were the normal humans who refused to give up hope. War Commander Vex Thal stood in the ruins of his London command center and felt something he had never experienced before. Uncertainty. The humans were supposed to be defeated. Their military had been destroyed and their cities occupied. But instead of surrendering, they were fighting back with capabilities that defied everything the Zephyrians knew about this species. The attacks were too coordinated and too precise to be the work of normal humans. Something had changed, and Vex Thal did not understand what it was. The alien commander studied video footage of the attacks and saw things that made no sense. Humans moving faster than his soldiers could track. Weapons fire that was accurate at impossible distances. Explosions that destroyed military targets while leaving civilian areas untouched. These were not the actions of a desperate and defeated species. These were the actions of warriors who had been planning and preparing for exactly this kind of war. Vex Thal began to suspect that the Zephyrians had made a serious mistake when they chose to invade Earth. The alien response was swift and brutal. Unable to understand why the humans were still fighting, Vexthal ordered increased attacks on civilian populations. Alien bombers struck hospitals and schools. Energy weapons targeted refugee camps and food distribution centers. The war commander believed that enough suffering would break human morale and force them to surrender. But he was wrong. Every attack on civilians only made the resistance stronger and gave the Genesis soldiers more motivated allies. The aliens were learning that humanity did not respond to cruelty the way other species did. Instead of breaking under pressure, humans became more determined to fight back. 6 months after the Genesis soldiers had awakened, the war for Earth reached its final phase. The alien occupation forces had been driven from most major cities and their supply lines were cut. But War Commander Vexthal still controlled the orbital space around Earth with his massive flagship and a fleet of destroyer-class vessels. From orbit, the aliens could bombard any target on the planet, and humanity could not fight back. Rodriguez knew that the final battle would have to be fought in space, and he had a plan that was either brilliant or completely insane. The Genesis soldiers had captured enough alien technology to understand how their ships worked. Dr. Foster and a team of human engineers had been studying Zephyrian systems for months. They discovered that the aliens used a centralized command structure where all ships were controlled from the flagship. If Rodriguez could capture or destroy that one vessel, the entire fleet would be paralyzed. The problem was getting to the flagship, which was protected by energy shields and surrounded by destroyer escorts. Rodriguez stood in the captured alien shuttle that would carry his team to the flagship. The shuttle had been modified with human technology and crewed by Genesis soldiers whose enhanced reflexes could handle the complex piloting required for space combat. Beside him, Dr. Vasquez checked her equipment. She had developed a virus that could disable Zephyrian computer systems, but she needed to inject it directly into the flagship main computer core. Lieutenant Patel was armed with weapons designed to work in zero gravity. Corporal Carter carried enough explosives to cripple any ship. On the surface of Earth, resistance cells launched coordinated attacks on every remaining alien installation. In New York, Kate Murphy led her fighters in an assault on the alien command bunker. In London, Dan Williams activated computer viruses that shut down alien defense systems. In Tokyo, human pilots flew captured alien fighters in support of the orbital mission. Across the globe, millions of people looked up at the sky and watched the lights of battle flashing among the stars. They knew that everything depended on what happened in the next few hours. The modified shuttle approached the Zephyrian fleet at high speed. Rodriguez felt his enhanced nervous system processing the tactical situation faster than any normal human could think. Enemy ships were moving to intercept, but their reaction times were too slow for opponents who could think and move at Genesis speeds. The shuttle pilot, an enhanced soldier named Lieutenant Cooper, flew through the alien formation like a dancer, avoiding energy blasts and missile locks with impossible precision. Aboard, the flagship war commander Vexthal watched the human shuttle approach and felt the same confusion that had been plaguing him for months. The humans were supposed to be defeated, but they kept fighting. They were supposed to be primitive, but they were using advanced tactics. They were supposed to surrender when faced with overwhelming odds, but instead they were launching a desperate attack on his flagship. Vexthal had conquered 12 different star systems, and he had never encountered a species like this. 1. The shuttle docked with the flagship, using stolen access codes that Dr. Foster had obtained from captured alien computers. Rodriguez and his team moved through the alien corridors like shadows. Their enhanced speed and reflexes made them almost invisible to the ship security systems. The Zephyrian crew members they encountered were unconscious before they could raise an alarm. Rodriguez led his team toward the command center, where Vexthal was coordinating the defense of his fleet. Dr. Vasquez reached the main computer core and began uploading her virus into the alien systems. Her enhanced reflexes let her work faster than any normal programmer, while her medical knowledge helped her understand the biological components in Zephyrian technology. The virus spread through the ship networks like a digital plague, shutting down weapon systems and disabling communication arrays. Within minutes, the flagship was helpless and the destroyer escorts were cut off from their command structure. Rodriguez found War Commander Vexthal in the command center surrounded by his senior officers. The alien commander was tall and imposing with the bearing of someone who had never known defeat. But his large black eyes showed confusion and something that might have been fear. Vexthal looked at Rodriguez and spoke in perfect English. "You are not like the other humans we have fought. Your capabilities are beyond what our intelligence reports indicated. Rodriguez nodded. We are what happens when humans refuse to accept defeat, Commander. We are what happens when you push our species too far. The alien commander studied Rodriguez carefully. Your enhancements are impressive, but you are still organic creatures with organic limitations. Logic dictates that you should surrender now and accept terms for your survival. Rodriguez smiled grimly. Commander, you still do not understand what you are fighting. Humans do not make decisions based on logic when we are protecting our families and our freedom. We fight because surrender is not acceptable. We fight because this is our home and no one has the right to take it from us. Bexthal was quiet for a long moment. Then he spoke in a voice that was almost respectful. We have conquered 17 different species across 12 star systems. All of them surrendered when the cost of resistance became too high. You are the first species we have encountered that values abstract concepts like freedom more than survival itself. Rodriguez looked at the alien commander and saw something that surprised him. Understanding, the war commander was finally beginning to comprehend what made humanity different from every other species in the galaxy. Rodriguez activated his communication system and spoke to resistance forces across the globe. This is Genesis Command. The alien fleet is disabled. All ground forces begin final assault on remaining enemy positions. Today we take back our world. Around the Earth, human fighters launched their final attacks on alien installations. The Zephyrians found themselves cut off from orbital support and facing opponents who had been planning this moment for months. The aliens who had seemed invincible were suddenly helpless and alone. War Commander Vex Thal looked at the tactical displays showing his forces being defeated across the planet. Then he looked at Rodriguez with what seemed like genuine curiosity. What will you do with us now, Sergeant? Will you show us the same mercy we showed your people? Rodriguez considered the question carefully. His enhanced capabilities had made him into a weapon, but his human heart still believed in justice over revenge. We will treat you according to the laws of war, Commander. But understand this. You will transmit a message to your high command. Earth is off limits. Any Zephyrian ship that approaches this system will be destroyed. Humanity is no longer helpless and we will never be conquered again.